Specifically the green light.
It's like, oh, this feels normal.
Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the PSTA Board to order. Thank you all for joining us. I would ask everyone to rise for a moment of silence. Thank you. Commissioner Smith, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will begin with public comment. Do we have any cards from the public? There's one in the back. And you'll be given 3 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Ken Elliott. I'm with the Transit Workers Union and the Green Light Pinellas Committee member that was formed by our union. These are my opinions and thoughts. PSTA, and this is in regard to what was on Channel 10 the other evening, providing Homeland Security and stuff like that. PSTA has nothing to hide. Clearly stated in every video and bus wrap is that these videos and wraps were paid for in part by a grant from Homeland Security. PSTA paid additional for the right to tell viewers how they're trying to improve transit by inviting viewers to visit greenlight.com at the end of every video. There are two phases to the DHS grant. Channel 10 compared the videos PSTA made to Phase 1, when actually the videos are related to Phase 2. Phase 2, which was for $439,500, develops and implements a mass media campaign to further promote public awareness of security issues related to public transportation. The security issues PSTA shared in the videos are as followed. In one of the videos, Margaret and Victor, PSTA shared that they know PSTA can take them where they want to go and get them there safely. PSTA has professional bus operators and was recognized for having one of the best security programs in the nation. In the second video, about Eva, PSTA cares about her time and her security. She can use her phone to check real-time bus information to see where her bus is and when it will arrive. And in the third video for Philip, it says that he knows that PSTA is not only protecting the environment with our hybrid buses, he knows PSTA is providing him with a safe and secure bus service. That was covered by Phase 2 of the grant. Phase 1 of the grant covers the basics of the Transit Watch program, which is what PSTA uses for security classes for drivers, promotional materials, and onboard announcements for patrons. Like when patrons are riding a bus, you will hear an announcement come on, that'll say, if you see anything suspicious, please notify the bus operator. Educating the public in that aspect. And I would like to say that none of the promotional materials that were paid for, in part from Homeland Security, tells voters to vote yes for Greenlight Pinellas. None of it does. I would also like to add my opinion that I feel that the future of public transit here in Pinellas is under attack from Tea Party interests. And I feel these boondoggle investigations do not serve the best interests of the people here in Pinellas. They only serve the Tea Party minority who are against public transportation. What I have here, this was thrown together at the last minute. I didn't have time to make, 20 copies?
That's fine.
You could just pass these down. These are pictures of some of our bus wraps for our advertisements, where a gentleman says, I can have a safe and secure ride aboard PSTA. Or a lady holding up her phone saying, security is knowing when my bus is going to arrive. And it clearly states on these buses, paid for, in part, with a grant from Homeland Security. PSTA isn't hiding anything. And these buses have been on the road for months. Those videos, okay.
I'm going to have to.
Absolutely, I understand.
Your time is out. We appreciate your comments. Brad sent out an email to the board yesterday. I hope everyone received it speaking to this issue. Let me ask first, do we have any other members of the public who wish to speak?
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much, sir. Brad, I know you've got some comments prepared speaking to this item.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
I made a copy of the board action item from 2011 that is at your places. It's a consent item that is entitled Emergency Awareness and Response Strategies Marketing Program. Mr. Elliott was just referring to a news story that ran 2 days ago by Channel 10's attesting that PSTA had misused a grant that we had got from the Federal Department of Homeland Security for marketing that paid for television ads and those bus wraps that Mr. Elliott is passing around on a campaign that basically lasted for about 6 months during 2013 and is now over. The complaint actually arose from Dr. David McCaleb, who wrote a piece about it on his blog a couple months ago. And then this was a follow-on story. Again, and the argument was that Department of Homeland Security funds should be spent on bombs and terrorism threats and not on public transit or more positive advertising, even if it has a message of safety and security. PSTA has a long-standing positive relationship with the Department of Homeland Security. We have received more than $2.5 million in DHS grants. DHS grants funded almost $2 million worth of fencing and cameras at the PSTA facilities. And then this grant that PSTA applied for just about 4 years ago, and then the board approved the contract on December 14th, 2011, was for just one part of the overall DHS funding, but it came in 2 parts, and I just want to highlight that because in the news articles and in Dr. McCaleb's piece, there's misinformation about what funds were used to fund those ads. If you look at the first page of the consent item, you can see there's something called Phase 1 and Phase 2. The grant was broken up into 2 pieces. In fact, PSTA applied for both of them. The wording in this resolution by the board was lifted right out of the grant application and right out of what DHS approved. You can see Phase 1, which is what the Channel 10 article highlighted during the ad, required PSTA to develop marketing materials that say, and I circled it just this morning, which encourage transit patrons to alert authorities if they see anything suspicious. Okay, that's what the news article said the ads were supposed to do, and obviously they didn't, and so that's what the article was about. However, this was not the phase that paid for the TV ads. This was a different phase, and we produced a brochure, which I gave to the reporter, and he had, when he did the piece. That's what was funded under this. This clearly was intended for mostly first responder organizations. We passed out a brochure that said if you see something, sort of a standard, see something, say something thing.
So the brochure was funded from Phase 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told the reporter, and what actually happened was the television ads and the bus wraps were funded in part by Phase 2. Phase 2. And I've circled what the Department of Homeland Security approved the spending of those funds for. A mass media campaign to further promote public awareness of security issues related to public transportation, which is what those ads do. So again, I know there were some follow-on stories yesterday that were expressing some concern that we had not spent the money according to Homeland Security, and so I sent that email out to you all and just wanted to provide that clarification. We can answer any questions.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the explanation. An accusation, as we know, is not a fact. And we had an accusation in terms of the FDOT funding for Greenlight. And the inquiry showed that we were not only in compliance, but we went above and beyond in terms of complying with all rules. So some of you are my Facebook friends, some are not. Y'all have seen this. Keep calm and support Greenlight. Keep calm so the audience sees it. For those of us who've been in campaigns, this is going to happen all the way through November. There are going to be accusations, there'll be misinformation from folks that are not willing to look at this fairly. They're going to use every tactic that they have to defeat this, and we ought to be prepared for it. Other questions for Brad? Commissioner Newton?
I just want to say the beauty of democracy is everybody gets to vote. Everybody will get a vote. Everybody will get to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Barkley?
Have we done anything about getting Channel 10 to publish a retraction on this?
My thought, and if the floor is open for thoughts, is let's not, I wouldn't pursue it.
Okay.
Mr. Deason is not alone. Many stations have a person that specializes in finding what they call government excess. And they don't report stories about good government. I mean, there are 1,000 stories you could support about PSTA and the good things we're doing. To try to pursue that, I've never seen a retraction from Mr. Deason or any other or the folks on other television stations. We've talked about it in a public meeting. I would move forward. That's just my thought on it. Other thoughts?
Mr. Chair, we have sent a note to the reporting stations that we know have published something yesterday. So we have sent a note to Channel 10, making them aware of this. But we didn't ask for them to retract their earlier story.
Commissioner Dayton?
Yeah, as far as I know, the Department of Homeland Security is completely aware of the campaign that was run and has expressed no problems with it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Related to that, and I'll get you, Mr. Vice Chair, I don't think we've met since we had the ruling from FDOT that totally exonerated PSTA. I did submit a letter to the editor just commenting on it, and that might be another way to address this with a letter, kind of open letter, stating the facts as Brad stated them. So if the board is supportive of that, I can go ahead and get that written up and
That's a
get
good
it out
idea.
there.
Yes.
Okay,
So that it's on the record.
okay, I'll do that. Mr. Vice Chair?
Just a comment about this general issue. I went to the green light, or the green bench discussion last night down in the beautiful city of St. Petersburg. And as I was leaving, I was approached by an opponent of the green light program, and he was handing out, or I was walking by him as he was saying, get the real facts on green light. And I said, okay, I'll take one. And he said, well, no, I'm not going to give you one because you're just going to use this information against me. And so I responded, well, it must mean that there's errors in your facts then. And so we moved on.
Point well taken. Commissioner Newton?
I concur with you about the response that we're giving. All I can say is, as board members, you got to be advocates for it. You got to, knowledge yourself up, and any misinformation, if you have social media contact, just rebuke it. That's all you can do. They're going to print what they're going to print. They're going to say what they're going to say. It's First Amendment right. Ain't much you can do about that. And when they bang by the barrel, you're not going to win. As far as retractions, I mean, if 1 million people saw it the first time, and only 10,000 are watching the second time, what good does that do you? I think the truth will prevail. I think as board members, we should advocate strong and hard, relentlessly, without fail, to make sure that the people that we represent are well informed. I think that's our job, and that's what we should do. So I agree with your course of action. I think that's the way we should proceed forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. Thank you for the update, Brad. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Any items to be pulled? If not, is it Commissioner Mertz?
I just have a question on 3C.
3C, okay. You want to go ahead and with the question?
Sure.
Okay.
In 3C, it indicates that the revised PSTA investment policy to be similar to Pinellas County investment policy. And I was just wondering what is different with it? The similarities, is there anything substantive that we should be aware of, especially in light of, we'll be addressing it again in 4A, so I'd like to know it at this point.
Ms. Leos?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mertz, basically, it's the exact same policy, with the exception of I've eliminated some items within there that I felt, such as investing in GMAs, Freddie Mac, different mortgage-backed type securities.
Ms. Leos, excuse me, pull that mic down if you would.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure we were not, this is very different than where we are today. So I wanted to make sure we weren't investing in anything that might be somewhat speculative at all. So I took out anything related to mortgage-backed securities. And anything else is open. Commissioner Dighton had asked that we make sure that we have things like T-bills, T-notes, anything that's backed by the federal government in there that we could use. We are opening up the door, and we will take baby steps as we're going forward. But we do want to ensure that our investments are secure and that we're getting the best return at the least risk. Changes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mertz. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? You got the motion and
Aye.
second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now, a very momentous action item. The interlocal agreement between PSTA and Pinellas County, item 4A.
Yes, it is a momentous occasion. We've talked, this PSTA board has voted on legislative agenda priorities and itself to eliminate the PSTA ad valorem property tax if the Greenlight Pinellas sales tax is implemented. I've thought about a United States House of Representatives tactic of voting 400 times for something. Maybe that could show that we are definitely intent on eliminating the property tax, but something even better is this interlocal agreement that I'm here to recommend to you. The County Commission approved this interlocal agreement on June 3rd. The Planning Committee of PSTA reviewed this a week ago and reviewed it in some detail. And then I know some members even talked to Alan Zimmett, our general counsel, further to get some questions answered, and we can answer any final questions today. I produced a one-page summary. The agreement is in your packet and is at your places, a paper copy. And then there's this one-page summary that I'm just going to quickly go over these 5 key points that are in the agreement. But you're welcome to ask any questions. Most importantly, number 1, is that this requires the elimination of the PSTA ad valorem property tax following the passage of the Greenlight Pinellas 1% sales tax. Not only does it require, does it not make any sense for a future PSTA board to levy a property tax because the county would reduce sales tax revenue by an equal amount, but it is essentially a penalty to PSTA if a future PSTA board, none of you included, I'm sure, and certainly not me, a future PSTA board levying a property tax allows the county to start a path toward eliminating the sales tax, potentially basically eliminating all local funding for PSTA and wiping PSTA out. It's sort of like Roundup. It's a provision. I called it. In addition, of course, the strategy that the county agrees with, the county agrees to support, is following the passage of Greenlight this coming November. PSTA and the county will together support the state legislature, again, completely eliminating the power of PSTA to levy a property tax, and then the provisions in this interlocal agreement related to that are then null and void because PSTA would not even have the power to levy the ad valorem tax. We think there's a better chance following the passage of Greenlight that the legislature will support that. It was supported and approved by the House and the Senate and vetoed by the governor previously. Number 2, there are all of the Greenlight Pinellas plan's milestones bus and rail that are in our Greenlight Pinellas plan are incorporated into the agreement, and PSTA is accountable for hitting those milestones. If we if we miss a milestone or get off track in some way, the agreement calls for a process by which the county and the PSTA will work together to first try to fix whatever the situation might be, or reduce the delays or whatever. And then ultimately, if nothing can be accomplished, a consultant is brought in and recommendations are given, and this can lead to ultimately the county making a decision on whether or not to pursue reducing or changing the sales tax, but through a process that will hold PSTA accountable. Number 3, this in addition to the milestones and the property tax penalty, there are 6 what we call triggers, 6 things that can trigger a county commission for taking action to potentially reduce or eliminate the sales tax. Some of the triggers are automatic, like at the end of 50 years. At the end of 50 years, there will be a consideration by the county, which we think is appropriate, out then that whether or not the Greenlight Pinellas plan will be completed, the debt service will be paid, and whether or not there's a decision to either reduce or eliminate the sales tax or implement a Greenlight 2 or something else. That's for a different PSTA board and a different county commission to consider. Other things are if the PSTA board itself decides not to implement the Greenlight Pinellas plan, then the county has the right to start a process of reducing or eliminating the sales tax. So triggers like that are in place in this agreement. That again is another accountability measure that is very important that we're telling folks today. It is ensured that what we're saying out there is true. Number 4, and I know the planning committee had a lot of discussion about this earlier, the payments of PSTA to the county are delineated, and I feel very good about them, that they are understood. There is following the passage of Greenlight, PSTA will pay the county $100,000 for basically legal fees that they've incurred thus far in helping us to this point. And then PSTA will pay for certain defined county infrastructure usage as we implement the plan. Almost all of the rail and bus rapid transit routes where we're making substantial capital improvements are not county-owned roads; they're state roads or interstate. So we don't think it's going to be a huge issue. But wherever we might interface with county infrastructure, like on signals, signal preemption or whatnot, then that's defined as how we will pay for the county for usage of their infrastructure. And probably best of all, number 5, the county has agreed and was very strong on this throughout the entire negotiations about doing no harm along the way. I asked for these accountability measures to be included in the provision, but at the same time, we didn't want the accountability measures or the threat of something changing to make it harder for PSTA to be successful in implementing the Greenlight Pinellas plan. And so this interlocal agreement has been reviewed by multiple attorneys from both sides, by financial advisors from both the county and PSTA, from bond rating agency folks who have looked at it to ensure that while we have these different measures in the agreement, they're not going to hurt our ability to get low-cost debt financing once we go to the bond market. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. Of course, Alan is here to answer questions. Also, Dwayne Draper from Bryant, Miller, and Oliver is here, who is our bond counsel and has been helping along for questions, most of which I can't answer, but these guys can answer.
Thank you, Brad. And this has been an incredible effort, and this interlocal is very strong. We've seen it several times. Both in terms of ensuring there will not be double taxation, but also the milestones and other provisions are very important. I want to thank you and Brad, you and Alan and the entire team for your work on this. Ms. Bujowski, comments?
Yeah, I just, as Brad mentioned at the Planning Committee, we did spend the majority of our meeting talking about this and delving into the minutia details. A couple of concerns that we discussed, and they're no longer concerns, but just maybe an effort to save some questions here. We talked a lot about the tax itself and it being eliminated, and if the county were to intercede, if they could permanently lower our penny sales and what that negotiation might look like, and we worked our way through that and felt confident about that. The milestones seemed reasonable to us. We were concerned that, and just bear with me. Well, in the reduction and termination of the surtax, we were explained that in this particular situation of green light, it can only be used for the green light plan. And so at the 50-year anniversary and the green light plan is completed, we would have to go out for another referendum to start over. And my apologies. We spent a lot of time also talking about the fees, costs, and expenses. In as much as, are we going to get charged time and a half for someone's time spending doing, at the county level, doing things, and how can we ensure that we're fairly getting charged for costs? But there are statements in here that say that the county infrastructure be consistent with any other current design standards and the costs, so they can't charge PSTA more than they would charge anybody else. So we felt confident about that. We also felt that the no harm clause was important, that if a completely new county commission that hated this plan couldn't just come in and stop what we're doing and throw wrenches into the process. Not that they would, and certainly not the current county, commission, but you have to think about the process rather than the people. And we were especially happy that that there was a statement in there that said the county shall use its best efforts to ensure that at any time such permanent reduction is made, the reduction shall not exceed the amount of ad valorem taxes collected by PSTA in the immediate fiscal year. So again, the way things are worded, that it wouldn't be done harm to us. So we feel confident that we as an organization are protected, and we also feel that the general public, which is is important to be protected, and we feel that the county on their end feels confident that what they are doing is ensuring that the community is protected. I know that Mr. Johnson had a number of questions that he worked through, I think, with Alan. I don't know if you had any, as vice chair, if you had anything you wanted to add.
Mr. Vice Chair?
The chairman of the planning committee correctly characterized the meeting, and characterized the meeting as I expressed my concern that since I was not an attorney and Mr. Zimmett was not available at the time, that I wanted to get some clarifications. I did receive those clarifications. I also talked to our city attorney, who said, if Alan says it, it's right. You can trust him. So, and my questions were more related to the lack, some of the wording instead of what it said. It's just, some places it's kind of hard to read through the paragraph, but I guess that's
Written by lawyers.
You realize how many attorneys were working on this?
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's the problem, but anyway, I'm
Not there's
fully
anything wrong with
supportive of it at this point in time, and I just want to go on record for that.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and Madam Secretary, thank you for the Planning Committee's diligence on this. Commissioner Newton.
Yes, I just want to, I want to thank Brad for coming down to present the St. Pete and my colleagues. I was at a debate between, I guess, no tax for track and yes for green light, and this came up about the interlocal agreement. What they're saying now, even though that you have it, and PSC can't benefit from a double taxation, it's still going to be a double tax in essence. Could you elaborate on what's to be done once this referendum is successful, as far as our abilities or our pursuit to move forward and get this taxing authority eliminated?
Yes.
Post.
Right. First of all, I think it's important to note that both the PSTA ad valorem property tax and the sales tax approved by the voters in November are restricted funds. The current ad valorem property tax can only be spent on public transportation as defined by the special act of that created PSTA. And the sales tax, because the Greenlight Pinellas plan is referenced in the ballot question, can only be spent on the Greenlight Pinellas plan. So if something that is we don't expect to happen, but if something happens that calls in play this agreement, and the county is holding funds, the county can't use them for anything else other than the Greenlight Pinellas plan. So that's first of all. Second, as I mentioned, the plan is, following the passage of Greenlight Pinellas, PSTA will prioritize a legislative initiative that the county has agreed in the agreement to support, to go back to the state legislature and again seek an amendment to the PSTA legislation, special act, that completely eliminates our ability to levy the property tax. What this does is zeroes out, eliminates the property tax. But what the state, and only the state, can do is eliminate PSTA's future ability to levy the ad valorem, and we think that will be successful. It was very successful 2 years ago. We think it'll be successful because it'll only be viewed as an elimination of the double tax.
Right. I just wanted to bring that up because even though the county has entered into an interlocal agreement and it's very fair both ways, the argument, I guess the misinformation is still that it's double tax, even though it'll be revenue neutral to PSTA because they have a sales tax. But that's not going to stop us from making sure that there's only one tax on the people, and that's only one tax that they're voting on. So making it purely a tax swap, not a double taxation opportunity for future board members or whomever. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Dayton?
Yeah, I just, regarding double taxation, we're exactly in the opposite situation there, because if this is passed, when it is passed, our taxation from the ad valorem will stop as of the 1st of October, and we will not start receiving funds from the sales tax until probably January. Well, it'll start in January, but we won't get the funds till February, probably the end of February. So we're having a 5-month interval where we have nothing coming in, and we're going to be working off of reserves. So it is double taxation is exactly the opposite.
Great point. And of course, we have the authority to set the millage at 0, which we've said over and over we intend to do once Greenlight passes. Any other comments? Commissioner Mertz?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, I had your name down.
That's okay. That's all right. 2 questions. One is, as I read here, it was passed by the County Commission on June 3rd. If it passes today, is there anything other to do? No.
No.
Okay.
If it passes today, Chairman Welch will be signing the agreement today.
All right. And the second question is, I can appreciate the importance of the wording such that future commissions can't change, I guess, to alter the path. The question I have is, if we find something that needs to be changed in the future, the wording doesn't preclude that ability to make that change.
Absolutely not. I mean, PSTA and the county could agree to change the language at any time. What we did try to do is we had to recognize with PSTA relying upon this agreement to issue bonds and otherwise borrow money, that the county commission couldn't unilaterally change the agreement or reduce the funding so that PSTA would be in a position of not being able to operate and maintain the system and to repay the loans. So that's what I think Brad was referring to when he was talking about future county commissions can't change that portion of the agreement without PSTA's agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mertz. Commissioner Johnson?
Brad, that was awesome. You've been doing a fantastic job, and I'm really proud of PSTA, and I fully support Greenlight. Excited for the future, for my kids, for my grandkids, and everyone. But I have a question. If next year at this time, the members other than the county members decide they don't like something that's going on, because I fully expect that we're going to have that agreement in November is going to be 100%. How can the PSTA board go against part of its members, which is the county, to change things or to disagree with them? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, let me answer it first this way. Let's just say the complexion of the entire county commission were to change. The county commission cannot unilaterally change the agreement without PSA board approval. And there are 5 county appointees on the board, but there are 15 members. So this board would have to approve any changes to the agreement. Only if PSTA imposes an ad valorem tax can the county take any action. And that's after a process that requires us to meet with them and discuss. Or those triggers come into play, which is things like, well, 50 years is not going to happen in the next quite a while. And even after 50 years, if the county decided to reduce the tax, they still have to leave enough money for PSA to operate and maintain the existing Greenlight system. If PSA were decided not to proceed with Greenlight for some reason, well, then this board would be making that determination. And still there's a process that requires us to meet with the county and to work through these issues before there's any permanent reduction in the tax. And then finally, there's that safeguard that says even if they do go to reduce the tax, they can't reduce it below an amount that would affect PSTA's credit rating or leave not enough money to operate and maintain the system that is constructed. And Dwayne's here. If I made any misstatement on that, Dwayne will correct me on the public finance portion. But so I think we are certainly PSTA is adequately protected.
I just want to make sure that the wonderful thing about this board is that it represents not just the county, but it represents all the different entities in our county, which is unique with 24 cities and the county. So we're unique, but we're very separately represented. And I just want to make sure that maintains, that it stays that way. We don't change the
And I
mission
think
to
the
start
agreement
with.
accomplishes that. I mean, I think that was one of our goals and I think the ultimate agreement that we reached protects the county from their standpoint, protects PSTA, protects PSTA's lending capacity, and protects the public and the representations that PSTA has made in support of Greenlight. Those are also recognized and protected in the agreement. So I like to think from the lawyer standpoint and the financial advisor standpoint, who we worked with closely on both sides, we accomplished those 3 goals.
That was.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Vice Chair?
Just to be absolutely clear, could you go through the dates that the ad valorem tax would terminate and the date that PSTA would begin getting sales tax? I think there was an implication that we would not be assessing ad valorem taxes beginning in October of this year. Is it this year or is
next
it
year?
Could you go
Yes.
through those?
Okay, so,
we understand that 5-year or 5 month.
okay, so following the passage of Greenlight on November 4th, 2014 by the voters, this PSTA board will be meeting this time next year and be presented a budget, and then you will have an obligation to, like we do now, to set the millage rate or send out the trim notices by July 31st of 2015, and we will recommend, and you will likely, well, you, according to this agreement, vote that will be 0 a year from now. October 1, when the FY15 budget, or I'm sorry, 16 budget, 2016 budget starts October 1, 2015, about 15 months from now. That zero rate property tax will start. And so the property owners of Pinellas County will not be assessed a property tax for public transit starting on October 1. I think they get their bill around November, where they'll see that. They'll see it on the trim notice starting in August at 0. The sales tax will start being assessed in Pinellas County on January 1st of 2016. About, 3 months after the ad valorem technically goes away. And then, as Mr. Dighton said, the actual revenues from the sales tax are about a month or maybe almost 2 months in arrear afterwards that they'll start flowing into PSTA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Any other questions or comments? We have one public comment. Okay, we'll take the public comment now. Ms. Barb Hazelden.
Morning.
Morning.
I really just wanted, I know that what I have to say about this isn't going to, of course, affect any outcome. But in looking at the interlocal agreement, I think that it is absolutely true that it protects PSTA and it protects the county and it protects the bond market, but I don't think it protects the taxpayers. And I don't see any language in there that would say that down the road, let's say that PSTA starts to implement, let's just say a $5 million ad valorem property tax. And according to the language, it appears that then they would be withheld $5 million from the sales tax. But that would still rest with the county. And even though the language states that that $5 million that PSTA has relinquished back to the county could only be spent on the Greenlight Pinellas venture, then what's to say that that doesn't still represent that the taxpayers have now been double taxed? Because the homeowners then would still be now having to start paying again an ad valorem property tax to the tune of the $5 million in addition to the full sales tax. And so therefore I don't see any protection, and you're looking puzzled, Ms. Johnson, but I don't see any protection in this, because I'm trying to get this clear too. I don't see any protection in this document that will automatically then return that $5 million to the taxpayers. And let's say that it's $30 million. Well, let's say that down the road, 10 years from now, that the sales tax doesn't perform just like it didn't in Charlotte. And so therefore the situation is in need of more influx of capital. Then what is to say that it couldn't be that 10 years from now that actually the ad valorem would be started again as an additional pot of money that would then be a double taxation, and those folks in the future are going to have a very fuzzy memory about how all of this started. And so I don't see a part of this document that has an automatic kickback to return any money that PSTA would start to charge again, whether it's $1 or $30 million, back to the taxpayers automatically. I believe that it would have to go back through referendum to reduce the ad valorem the sales tax, either entirely or partially, to match the amount of the ad valorem that had been reinstituted. So please correct me if I'm wrong. And when you talk about, well, this is all predicated on the fact that the legislative delegation is going to take this back to the legislature, I think that's been pretty clear that with the current composition of the Senate members, that's not going to happen. So I wonder what your response would be, Mr. Zimmett. What part of the contract guarantees a return to the taxpayers of any monies that PSTA would start to charge with ad valorem again?
Counselor.
What the agreement provides is that, first of all, the agreement gives PSA absolutely no incentive to impose an ad valorem tax because PSA will not obtain or receive any additional funds other than what is generated by the surtax. Number two, the county has the ability to permanently reduce the tax in the amount of any collections of ad valorem taxes that would have to be paid over or would be withheld by the county if PSTA chose to impose the ad valorem tax again for some reason, which again, PSTA would have absolutely no incentive or any reason to do that. So that's what legally can be provided. That's what's provided for in the agreement. And that's the way that double taxation can be avoided if the legislature and the governor does not wish to amend the legislation and take out the ad valorem taxing authority that PSTA has, which once the surtax passes, the incentive on the legislative delegation to not support that would seem to be contrary to the reason that they didn't support it 2 years ago.
Thank you, Counselor. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alan, can you explain the process? Because we had the same question at the Planning Committee and we got it answered. So for the benefit of those that might be watching, if PSTA, some future PSTA did implement the property tax.
If a PSA board, for whatever reason, decided to impose the ad valorem tax, the county will, and let's just say it's $30 million. I think that's one of the amounts that was used by Ms. Hazelton in her example. The county would withhold $30 million from the surtax funds that are paid over to PSTA. So, would they not collect it, or would they withhold it from PSTA, and what would happen to that money? In the first year, probably because of the timing, they would just withhold it. But then they would have the ability to go out and whatever methodology is legally available to them at that time, they could permanently reduce the surtax to an amount to equal the amount that PSA would be collecting in ad valorem taxes. But what would happen to the money that's being withheld? It's just not collected, correct? That's the question. What's happening with the money that's being withheld? It would still be collected. It would be held by the county. And done what with? They could either well, it only can be used for green light purposes, so the county couldn't use it for anything outside of green light. So they could either reduce the tax further and then pay the money over to PSTA to equal out the amount. They could figure out a way to refund the money to people. I mean, we really haven't looked at what would happen. The fact is, the incentive, there is no practical reason why the PSTA board would ever issue the ad valorem tax, knowing that the net number is going to be the exact same, and that the penalty is that the tax can be permanently reduced. So even if it is collected on both sides in a year, it cannot be used. The one tax will have to be reduced to accommodate the other. Correct? And so at any given time, if for whatever reason this double collection happens, it will then be reduced in the following year to accommodate for it, where it will not be charged to the taxpayer. Correct.
No, I don't think that's what he said.
I'm sorry?
That's not what you said, is it?
We're not going to have back and forth, Ms. Hazel, and this is a question from the Secretary, too.
It is. It is what he said.
Returned?
Ms. Hazelton, we're not going to have, you've had your 3 minutes.
Well, I think I've made my point.
Well, I'll make a comment in a second here. Commissioner Dighton?
I think probably the key is what Attorney Zimmett said. There's really a disincentive to to pass a ad valorem tax. And I think what one of the questions might be, under what circumstances do you think that this board would elect to incur the deserved opprobrium of the public by passing a tax like that?
You can't receive the benefit.
You're not going to make anything from it. You're just going to get anger.
Anger.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Commissioner Newton.
I just want to ask, I know you mentioned a minute ago that the county is the authority that collects the taxes for all the municipalities and taxing authorities and then redistributes it. Is that correct?
It's actually the county clerk.
Well, that's part of the county. I'm just saying the county government is the one that the taxes pass through. When you talked about zero in the ad valorem, wouldn't that, in essence, not tax the people? If you get taxed at a zero rate, that's nothing, correct? Right. I mean, zero is zero. Right. So, I mean, the argument they're trying to make is even though that money is being collected and not being passed on the PSTA, the people are getting taxed on the revenue side and on the ad valorem. That's the argument they're trying to make. But if the interlocal agreement and the county has the ability to set that tax, that whatever tax that a rogue future board might try to pass to zero, that they wouldn't get anything. They wouldn't tax the people. Is that correct? Is that incorrect?
PSTA would have no incentive. Right. PSTA would get nothing. Get nothing.
Right, but the argument,
rogue PSTA board would not be able to do it.
Right, but the argument is being made that the people will still get taxed, even though it wouldn't go to PSTA. So they're getting taxed on ad valorem, even though say you get a majority of a future board agrees to raise it, I don't know, 3%, and then the people would still get taxed. It wouldn't come to PSTA, but they will get taxed, and they also pay a revenue tax. That's the argument they're trying to make, but I'm trying to understand. I thought if the county set that ad valorem to zero, wouldn't allow them to put a 3% tax in, no one would get taxed because zero is zero. If I'm wrong, tell me. That's what I'm asking. Is that the proper?
That's right.
It is.
But it could happen prior to that. The only way it could happen would be prior to us setting it at zero or not taking the action to set it at zero.
Okay. Because the argument they're trying to make is that I know everybody's saying it'll be net neutral and PSA wouldn't get it. The argument they're trying to make, and that's one that you clarified, and that we would go forward even after a successful referendum and make sure no one in the future can do a ad valorem tax vis-a-vis for PSA. Is that if it happens, PSA won't get it, but people still got taxed for 1 cent and they got taxed on the house. That's the argument they're making, even though PSA won't get it. But what I'm saying is, I think, I don't know if I'm correct, that's what I'm trying to clarify from the county commissioners we have sitting here, is if you don't have an authority and you set a future board sets it to 3%, can't the county set it to zero? And then it wouldn't tax them.
This board sets the millage.
No, we set our own millage.
Repeatedly, we're going to set it at zero next year if green light passes.
Okay.
So and this board, this elected board, this scenario, it's hard to respond to every,
I know,
Armageddon scenario and try to be logical.
Bizarre.
We have no intent of levying a millage, period.
Right.
The county commission not only can reduce it, but can take steps to eliminate the sales tax completely. That's the nuclear option. It's in there. So this scenario is, again, it's like the tinted windows. We can't spend a whole lot of time trying to respond to these crazy Armageddon scenarios that aren't factual.
Right. It's not a response, Mr. Chair. It's just that, like I said, at the debate, that came up. And what happened is, before the interlocal agreement with the county, it's going to be a double tax. And now after the interlocal agreement, it's just you got a proponent that's morphing into more misinformation by saying that it's going to be double taxation.
And it's going to continue until November.
I understand.
So get ready for the next.
But like I said, as a board and the people that's going to be voting to set that alone, we should let the people watch
I appreciate
and
your
know.
comments.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
let them know
Commissioner
that.
Newton. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch, for your voice of reason and sanity in this conversation, which I'm sitting here thinking is almost laughable. There's 16 elected officials and people on this board.
Yes.
Now, granted, in any group that size, you might, maybe one or two people that are just plain stupid. But to think that the whole entire body is going to impose a tax knowing you can't receive any benefit for it is just, I can't even wrap my head around that. And it's distressing to me to think that anyone in our beautiful county that has such an incredible quality of life could have that kind of far-fetched, stretched imagination to, it's laughable to me. And I really think that we have to work extra hard to keep our feet on the ground and be rational and reasonable, because this is just, it's hard, I can't even go there. So I just had to say, thank you for being so reasonable to remind us. This is not going to be the only time we hear this kind of outrageous what if.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. From now until November is going to be a battle about the facts and getting the facts.
And
to
reason.
the people. Absolutely. So stay calm and support green light.
I'll work on
Y'all
that.
have done an excellent job, and I do have to state also that the same folks that are talking about double taxation are the folks that urged the governor to veto the bill that would have assured that we had no taxing authority whatsoever, that did pass our legislature, House and Senate.
Yes.
And the governor vetoed it. I can't imagine that the next governor, if it's the current governor or if it's a new governor, is going to veto a bill when we've already passed a 1% surtax. So that will happen. So let's just stay confident. Y'all have done a great job on this. Alan, did you have another comment?
There was just a couple things, if
Okay.
I could clarify a few things that were said, or answer some questions that came up. One, I wanted to remind the board that on each project which would involve or have an interaction with county infrastructure, there would be a separate agreement to address the effect on the county infrastructure. So that would be coming back to the board each time, and you would see that as we have that interaction to determine how those fees are paid. I think somebody asked a question about what kind of fees are going to be paid and how that's going to be determined. So you'll see those agreements as there's a project that interacts or affects county infrastructure. The other thing I wanted to mention is Brad went through the process for talking about the reduction. We do intend to file, and there's an agreement that PSTA is obligated to file a validation procedure. So that process will relate to exactly at what time the board will be in a position to vote to impose no ad valorem taxes for the following year. We'll need that validation to be complete, so that we'll have be assured that PSA will be collecting the sales tax beginning in January of 2016. I just wanted to make those couple of points, and I think you made the other point about the legislative delegation. The legislature would have no incentive to, when a governing body wishes to remove a taxing, its taxing authority, so to avoid any double taxation for the legislation, the governor would have no incentive not to be supportive.
Commissioner Mertz?
Yeah, I just wanted to just get clarification or just confirmation. I think I've heard it a couple times, but as you said, from now until November, there'll be lots of discussions on facts. And my understanding, what I heard, is that even if, doesn't make any sense to do it, but even if a future PSTA was to put an ad valorem in place, the documents that we have here in front of us would make it such that the county would mandatorily reduce the 1%. So it's not like even in that particular situation, you're not acquiring two pots of money. The total dollar amount would be the same if it would be some ad valorem, but then it would be a reduced penny to whatever the necessary percentage would be. Is that correct assumption?
Yes, we've got no incentive from a
Right.
PSTA perspective to have an ad valorem if this passes.
Okay.
None whatsoever. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the interlocal?
Move
So moved.
approval.
So moved.
Second.
You got that? Okay.
Everyone.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 4B, the Universal Pass Program.
Okay. I'm presenting you a second action item, but it's a two-part action that I'm hoping you will consider. Number one is to approve the overall concept of a universal pass program at PSTA, a U-Pass. And the second action is to approve specifically the first U-Pass program that we intend to launch, which is a partnership with the City of St. Petersburg, and the contract is in your packet, and so you're approving that contract with the City of St. Petersburg, and I think we printed out a paper copy of it at your places as well. And that agreement with the City of St. Petersburg, we intend to use as a model for other ones. That's what the action is. Yes, sir.
Where you going? Is there conflict with the two sitting council members, Alan?
That's Alan.
I'm sorry.
Question on conflict for the two City of St. Petersburg reps. Is there any conflict on them voting on this?
No, I guess it's not a personal benefit to you.
Right.
Of course, the PSTA charges fares for all of our customers that ride PSTA services. PSTA has one of the highest fare box recovery, and PSTA has been very focused on that over the years. The proportion of our overall operating budget that is covered by the fares has been a priority of PSTA to maintain at very high. And when the Finance and Performance Management Committee has reviewed our fares against our peers in Florida and across the country in our benchmarking group, we still have some of the highest fares. We charge our customers more proportionally than most other transit systems do. And that's been a very good thing for PSTA. It has allowed us to generate $14 million, roughly $14 million a year in fare revenue for PSTA. But every study shows nationwide and here that the fare does have an effect on ridership. It does. Even it's more of a psychological effect than of anything. People who do not ride the bus, or people that don't ride public transit, fares are confusing and they get nervous about being yelled at by the driver, which of course they never do, I hope. Or not having the right change, or exactly, we don't give change. We're working on a smart card system to make it easier, but that has always been an issue. So what this Universal Pass program is an idea. It's a concept that to try to make things easier for our customers and make it easier for them to ride public transit, maybe not even all the time, maybe just once or twice a year, or to a baseball game or whatever. That's what the idea is about the Universal Pass program. If PSTA can maintain its $14 million revenue stream and keep it growing into the future, and we get more riders filling up existing capacity on our transit system, empty seats, then it seems like a win-win. PSTA generates more revenue, and we get more riders. Now, sure, new riders under a Universal Pass program may not be paying the same unit cost, or we may not be getting the same amount of money as we are for the existing, but they're filling up existing seats on the bus, so it's not costing PSTA any money to carry those riders to their destination. That's what this Universal Pass program is. We will execute an agreement modeled after the one that you have before you for the City of St. Petersburg with any entity, any company, any entity, where we will estimate the current revenue we're receiving from the employees of that company or city or the students, and break even in the first year, and then in subsequent years receive 3% or 2.5% inflationary increases to keep our revenue stream rising. So we break even and see a growing revenue stream, and then all of the employees of that entity can ride for free by showing their ID badge. So in the case of the City of St. Petersburg, we have an agreement where in the first year, the City of St. Petersburg is going to pay PSTA $28,000, which is approximately equivalent to the amount of revenue we're receiving from St. Pete employees and the city, which subsidizes individual bus passes already today. So we break even, and then the agreement calls for 2.5% increases a year for the next 3 years from the city of St. Pete. So we see a growing revenue stream, and every one of the, I think, about 3,000 city of St. Pete employees can ride for free by showing their ID badge. That's the concept. It's, of course, it's been implemented in hundreds of other cities and other communities like this. We had a very successful program where I came from in Iowa, very much like this, where virtually everyone was riding with their ID badge. And again, the transit system benefits by seeing that steady growth in revenue, and it does increase ridership. Even though the $2 fare that we charge today is not a lot of money, it is an inhibitor to many people from riding, or people are just nervous about it and generally don't know how they will handle that. If they have to not think about that, and they can just show their ID badge, and they just ride one time when their car is in the shop, or to the baseball game one time and not worry about it, it does increase ridership. It has every other place. After following the city of St. Petersburg's launch, hopefully in the next sometime we'll have a ribbon cutting or launching of it in July. The next one that we have already started negotiating with, and I will bring back to you, is an arrangement with St. Pete College, which is substantially larger. I presented to this to St. Pete College as a a la carte option amongst their 10 campuses, that some campuses might do it and some not. And they took it up to their administration, and they liked it so much that they insisted on having a St. Pete College-wide system for all 33,000 students would be able to ride public transit for free to class. This would be substantial for PSTA. We have estimated the amount of revenue that we're receiving today from St. Pete College students, so we would break even, and then the students will ride for free. They will. Obviously, the college sees this as a great benefit to them. They want us to get this deal done. I was hoping to have it done by today, but I have not heard back from them. But it seems very positive. They want to have this done, and so they can advertise it to potential students starting in July, which is when they say students start signing up for fall classes, so that this would be in full gear once the fall semester starts in St. Pete College. The next one would be, which I've given a proposal to, it would be USF St. Pete, and also I've talked to Eckerd College. But really, it wouldn't have to be colleges, it could be businesses, it could be, the whole concept could be expanded. Again, PSTA sees a growing revenue stream from our fares, and then we fill up extra capacity. The agreement with St. Petersburg and with St. Pete College provides that if a good problem occurs where the buses are overcrowded because this is so incredibly successful, and we do have to add additional buses, which does have a cost to it, then we reserve the right to renegotiate the rate. But that would be a great thing to occur. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Bartlett?
You sort of answered my question that I was concerned about, in that we currently have standing room only routes at certain times. And if we add additional riders, that's going to further exacerbate that problem. Now, that's not 24/7, but that's certain times during the day. Do we have the capacity now, without the additional revenue that will be generated through Greenlight Pinellas, to put extra buses on those routes when there is extra traffic?
We have some ability to do that. I think the Finance Committee that you sit on saw a presentation about our tripper buses that we deploy when we see overcrowding from time to time. So in a pinch, certainly we can do that. We have looked at there are 10 St. Pete College campuses. There's less than 10. I don't know the total number of City of St. Pete facilities, but we think we've looked at the capacity on those routes and feel like, at least to start, we'll be okay.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Commissioner Newton.
Yeah, I want to thank Brad. Brad presented this also down at our last council meeting. I think it's a great thing. I think it's all about where we're going and where the board is taking this PSTA, is transit options. People have an option if they want to, get on a bus and go to work or take that car, and for employees it's going to be a win-win, because how many times people call up and say, my car's broke, I can't come in. They don't shut the business down for that day. They got to find someone to pick up their slack and or pay overtime. So it might be another option. Just have people get back and forth to work with a reliable transit system. I think having too many riders is a good problem to have, if you ask me.
Figure that out.
Because according to the other side, no one's going to ride this stuff. No one's going to participate in this new robust transit system that we're embarking on called Green Light. So I just thank Brad for forward thinking the partnerships. I know I've spoken with Mr. Law, and they spoke about, they wish they could have it for all the kids to be able to go back and forth to the campuses. I know down in St. Pete, we have USF St. Pete, we have Eckerd College, and we also have St. Pete College. So I think it's a great thing, because a lot of those young people don't own cars because of the high insurance and the car payments and the responsibilities and the $25 gifts that we give them for parking on the street too long. You can't buy Roman noodles if you're paying parking tickets. So I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Rice? We can relate
Thank
to the
you.
Roman noodles comment, please.
I figured they'd get that on the way home.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Brad. And when you presented this to the City Council meeting last week, I also expressed my support for this program, which I think is a great idea. And I also just want to give the same feedback that I gave last week, and I will certainly offer to help figure out how to shepherd this through the St. Pete side of things. But I would also like us to consider extending this program to work with the disadvantaged youth who are part of the BOLI centers. We have an after-school program that targets kids 14 to 18, and then there's the summer program that targets disadvantaged youth that's 14 to 23. It's a 10-week program. And even with a reduced bus pass for this population, that's still a lot of money. So I think in the spirit of this program, that was certainly a group that we want to include, who certainly would use the bus services to get to summer jobs and after-school programs. And it's a little bit of money, but it would mean a lot to them. So I'm happy to work with you to figure out how we can make that happen.
Great.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Madam Secretary?
I was just going to say that the Planning Committee endorsed and recommended approval.
Okay, great.
And I should also note that the Riders Committee endorsed the program.
Great. And this is something that I didn't know, but whenever you see a committee on here, that means they've not only reviewed it, but endorsed it or supporting that issue, and I didn't know that. So we have track and planning on that. No citizen comments on this one. Okay, is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to our information items. 5A, the 2015 draft budget. Ms. Leos?
Mr. Chair, if I could just make a quick opening comment before Debbie goes through your sheet. The Planning Committee met and discussed the PSTA budget a week ago and recommended a little bit of a change in the timeline for presenting our PSTA budget to the full board. Typically, this month, June, you would be seeing me give a PowerPoint and a summary of the overall recommended budget that you will take action on this coming September in the month of June. But because of the circumstances related to Greenlight Pinellas, the budget that we have prepared does not assume the passage of Greenlight Pinellas, and we are working on a fiscal year 15 budget scenario that does assume the passage of Greenlight Pinellas and what the impact of that will be on the initiatives that we will launch in fiscal year 15, even though the sales tax will not have kicked in. So the Planning Committee recommended that I don't give the full presentation. You have Now, at your place is this lovely binder with the draft FY15 budget for you to enjoy reading and understanding over the next 3 months to answer questions. But next month, I am going to come back to you and give a presentation on the initiatives that are contained here, as well as what the Greenlight other initiatives will take forward in fiscal year 15 with the passage of Greenlight. What the Planning Committee recommended was that we produce a summary sheet that Debbie's going to quickly walk through, that's at your places, that has green on it. It's called PSTA FY15 Draft Budget Assumptions. Basically, the embedded assumptions in the budget document that we've used so far. Go for it.
If I could just add, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman. We felt that the board should have a chance to get the book, hear the highlights, and be able to go through it in detail if they chose to do so before coming back and having the full-on discussion. And we will have been able to have the opportunity to do the same. If you choose not to go through it in detail form, we will have had the opportunity to do the same, because we just got the book as well.
Okay.
So that was part of the reason why we felt everybody should have a chance to go through the book if they so choose.
And we have this electronically as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. This is my first year going through the budget here, and I think it's a wonderful process that we've had where the board has had an opportunity over the number of months to have input into the assumptions that we have contained herein. And when I take a look at the budget that we have for this year and the forecast that we have for this year, which is important because our budget for next year is based off the forecast. If you take a look at the sheet that was put in front of you, we have our adopted budget for 14 and the forecast in the top 2 lines. And PSTA is performing better than our budget and performing better than the Ernst & Young financial plan, both for fiscal year 14 and for fiscal year 15. As you can see, we anticipate at this point in time, by the end of this year, for fiscal year ending 14, we will have a surplus of $1,759,604. Those funds will be used to grow new initiatives in next fiscal year. And in preparing the budget for next year, we have still a delta in there, a deficit that's going to be taken from reserves. We had anticipated that as well this year, and it doesn't look like we'll have to use it. And even though we have a deficit next year where we'll do a reserve transfer, it is less than what Ernst & Young had initially anticipated. They had anticipated we would need to take a little over $3 million out of reserves. We're looking at $2.2 million. And if we take a look at the assumptions included within the plan, the ad valorem tax there's going to be no change. Our fiscal stewardship allows for no change in the ad valorem tax rate. We have no fare increases. We anticipate that the property tax next year is going to be going up 5.9%, and that's based on the property tax valuations. We also are going to be seeing an increase in the FDOT state grant money by 5.2%. Our diesel fuel at this early point, we're looking at a cost of $3.30 a gallon, or an increase of 12%. Health insurance premiums. Health insurance premiums are going up by approximately 6.9%. And this will be the first time that employees will be participating in the increase. This will also be the first time that single health insurance premium people like myself will be paying into it. Previously, those premiums have been fully paid for by PSTA. So we are now getting to a point where we're very similar to all the other transit agencies and public agencies in having employees participate. The union contracts, we're assuming, have a 1% increase and a merit bonus increase, and the non-union employees will be increasing 3%. One area that's a little bit confusing, it's a good news, bad news, is our insurance. On the insurance side, our net costs, net of recoveries, has our single biggest increase of approximately $1 million. It's not that insurance premiums are going up that much. It's that this year we've had an excellent year of our risk managers going out and getting reimbursements on third-party claims. We also get reimbursements from our insurance companies of anything over a set dollar amount. I think it's $100,000 for general liability, $250,000 for workers' compensation. The good news is we don't have that many large claims sitting out there. So that means we won't be getting the recoveries back. So that's a good news story. Bad news is it has an impact on our budget. We also have new jobs in the budget. We have an additional 9 bus operators, and this will help to reduce overtime costs. This year, for the first time, we did an in-depth analysis to see what we could do to help reduce overtime. And we found that we needed to increase the number of operators without it costing additional funds. So each operator will cost or save us about $30,000 in overtime. And we also have some new jobs to create efficiencies. We're going to be adding 2 new mechanics, a facility repair person, an inventory parts clerk. And the inventory parts clerk will allow a supervisor that's been working in the stock room to actually be back out on the floor. We also have our HR recruiter and a part-time operator coach. In addition to all these assumptions, we've got some excellent initiatives already planned for next year. The Pinellas Park Transit Center will be fully operational.
Yes.
We'll be having a new Route 747, which I kind of like the number of that, considering it'll be going from downtown St. Pete to Tampa International Airport into downtown Tampa. And I'm not sure that may have been Brad's or the marketing's idea, but it's a great one. We're going to have more UPass programs that Brad just talked about that'll help to really increase our ridership. We're going to be looking at a fare collection policy and a regional fare box program here. And so that'll be excellent, so there'll be seamless transportation between the counties. We are going to be looking at all buses with Wi-Fi. And we are going to be investing in customer service training and safety training. And of course, we've got the excitement of Green Light Pinellas starting on November 5th. And as Brad mentioned, we'll come back next month to explain what new initiatives will happen with that assumption. Are there any questions on the overall budget summary?
Thank you, Ms. Leos. Questions, comments? Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, sir. Debbie, I just wanted to verify in the diesel fuel category, we've talked about in the Finance Committee meetings that we're going to continue with our program of bulk purchases to keep our costs in line.
Right, and HART is just in the process of concluding that so that we can start locking in and being part of that contract. So yes, we sure will. That number may go down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Yes, in the packet we got. Question, miscellaneous, it goes up by 32%. What is that exactly?
We have in the miscellaneous category, Michael, I'm trying to remember, we've got trainings in there and the new service initiatives. We also have money set aside for new service, so.
Okay.
That's where we put the money for the route, the airport route.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for the update.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. We're going to item 5B, our Senior Citizen Green Light Initiative update.
Katie Franco is going to introduce our speaker this afternoon at the event in Dunedin, which you are all invited to attend.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm excited to introduce a special guest speaker today to spend a couple minutes. Laura Cantwell is the Associate State Director for AARP, and she'll be joining us at 1 o'clock in Dunedin at the Hale Senior Center. We'll be having a larger conversation about seniors, our senior population here in Pinellas County, and transportation. So with that, I'd like to introduce Laura.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just kind of wanted to go over briefly why AARP is interested in livable communities. We have done survey after survey after survey that finds that older adults want to remain in their homes. They want to stay in their community, and many want to stay in the same house they've been in for the past 15 to 20 years. So looking at that data, we decided that one of our priorities needed to be livable communities and working on those issues. And This afternoon, I will go into a lot more details about what defines a livable community, but briefly, a livable community is one that has affordable and appropriate housing, supportive community services, and adequate mobility options. And when we look at what is a livable community at ARP, we look at it with 8 domains, and one is the social side and one is the built side. And on the social side, making sure you have community support, social participation, communication and information, especially with technology changing, make sure that we have appropriate ways for people to receive information. And then on the built side, of course, you have outdoor spaces, transportation, and housing. And specifically this afternoon, I'll be focusing on some of the mobility issues that we're working on, and to kind of paint a picture why this is so important. By 2025, 1 in 5 drivers will be over 65. And a man who is 70 today will outlive his driving years by about 6 years, and a woman who is 70 will likely outlive her driving years by about 11 years. So this is something that directly impacts quality of life. 33% of non-drivers 50 plus miss doing things they want to do because they can't drive, and 2% of drivers 50 plus miss out on things that they would like to do because they can't drive. So this is something that is very important. And what this afternoon I'm going to talk about a little bit more some of our programs we have. We have programs that look at how to make sure your car fits you, how your home fits you. We have things in the community where residents can do a walkability audit of their community to see how walkable it is, and also focus on some of our policy that we're working on. And to kind of give you a larger overview of what we're doing, I'll go over some of our major initiatives within our Livable Community program at ARP. And one of those is something that I've been working closely on in Florida. I tend to work on our Livable Community agenda. And since 2012, we have started working on ARP Network of Age-Friendly Communities. It's an affiliate of the World Health Organization, and they have these networks throughout the world, and we've been working on that in ARP. And I believe right now we have over 20 communities throughout the United States that have this designation. And what that means is they've made a commitment to work on the 8 domains of livability that I mentioned previously. And it starts off kind of just doing a baseline assessment. Where are you? Where do you need to improve? And then the toolkit we have helps communities walk through that process. Another thing that we're doing I'm very excited about is we've partnered with Governing Magazine, and we are holding roundtables throughout the United States, and we will actually have one in Jacksonville this year. There's one in Jacksonville and one in St. Louis. And what that does is bring together stakeholders who might not talk about all of these issues at the same time, the transportation, the housing, the social aspect, all coming together to see how to work on that in their community. We also do the walkability audits, like I mentioned. We have a livable community advocacy agenda. So one thing that we work on and we have for many years is complete streets legislation, looking at how your roads are set up. For example, I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Dangerous by Design report that came out in May that noted that Florida has the top 4 most dangerous cities in the United States, with Tampa Bay being number 2, I believe. So that's something, from that there's been a lot of work in Florida and a lot of talk about complete streets. That's something we've always been engaged on, and we continue to be engaged on. Our Public Policy Institute always works on coming up with more research and talking to communities. Right now, we're working on a livability index that kind of goes along with our age-friendly network so that people can measure in their community, are they meeting that index, and that's currently being developed. And then the one thing I really wanted to talk to everybody about is a new, I say new, I guess it's about a year old resource we have. It's arp.org/livable. And it's really set up for policymakers. It has information about what cities, counties are doing throughout the United States on livable community issues, housing, transportation, road design, so that if, in your area you're interested in doing something, you can do a quick reference. So, for example, transportation has its own page, and it has research that is there that we've had since, I believe, 2010 or before that is archived. We also have state-specific information, and we ask everybody to look at that. If there's something missing from Florida, there's an email, or you can contact me to make sure we're getting that information out there. So I would just encourage you to check that out. And thank you so much for having me today, and I really look forward to speaking to everybody this afternoon. I hope to see some of you.
Ms. Cantwell, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your work on behalf of our seniors. We're looking forward to your words this afternoon. I know Commissioner Latvala and Blazonski are joining you along with Brad, and whichever members can join as well. So thank you so much for
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And
Yes, sir.
let me just make one more pitch for this. We are having, I think we're going to have actually several vehicles at the event, including a connector bus that we are driving from PSTA to the event at noon, and you're welcome to ride the bus with me there. As an extra incentive, I think we have ordered like 3 Panera box lunches, so first come, first serve if you get on that bus. I think it leaves here at noon, if you want to.
Thank you, Brad. Mr. Vice Chair.
How long will the presentation take this afternoon?
Well, we're hoping it starts at 1 o'clock. It'll be done by 2.
Okay. And the other question I had is on the agenda item, the third bullet down, it says numerous studies show that a lack of mobility contributes to less doctor's visits. Did that get reversed? Is it studies show that improved mobility contributes to less doctor? Or am I having trouble reading that?
No, they can't get to the doctor because they don't have mobility.
Yeah. It's saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Less doctor visits. There's 2 ways to read it.
Not improved health.
Yeah.
But they can't get to the doctor's visit.
Right.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're an engineer.
I know.
See what you started now?
Patricia.
I got several. So, Commissioner Newton?
Yeah, I just want to thank Laura for partnering with us, and it's important. And a lot of people don't have to make that decision. Well, I don't. My parents and grandparents have passed on, but the important stage is about when do you take the keys away? You know, how do you do that? Because when you do that, that becomes your responsibility, your job to make sure they get back and forth into their appointments and everywhere else. So, again, Greenlight Pinellas and having transit options is going to be helpful to everybody. This is what needs to be done 10 years ago. But I thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Commissioner Johnson?
I just wanted to say, Bill, that when people start not being able to go to the doctor, can't get their medication, they want to stay at home, and they should have the right, just like everyone else, to stay at home, that their illness grows, their dependence grows, and their health diminishes, eyesight diminishes, everything about their social activities and their life changes. It's a bad, bad, bad thing when you can't get where you need to go. Bad. Not just physically, but mentally.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Long?
I just wanted to ask Brad, so if the bus takes us there, is it going to bring us back here? Left that piece out.
It'll be back here by 3. It'll be back here by 3.
Good question.
One of our great partners, Care Ride, will also have a Care Ride vehicle there on display because DART is a very key component to what we provide for people that can't ride the regular bus.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to 5C, the new statewide Medicaid program.
Ross.
Okay, Mr. Silvers.
Hello. It's PC Russell. So I did a presentation for the Finance Committee going into a bit more detail about this process. So I'm, in the interest of time, and since you have it all in front of you, I'm going to kind of do a simpler version, but if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So essentially what happened is the state of Florida is going through a change in how Medicaid operates. It's going to a more of a managed care model, and it's rolling it out by region of the state. So in June 1st, this region, which of course includes Pinellas and Pasco and Hillsborough, got to join in the managed care process. And fortunately, it seems like the Agency for Healthcare Administration, which runs Medicaid, learned some good lessons, and it seems to have gone much more smoothly here in this area. We had some initial calls coming in, before it rolled out and the first week or so afterwards, but our calls have gone down tremendously. But I just wanted to kind of, you have some information available so that if you get any calls from your constituents, then you can help respond to them. So the details are all here, but the bottom line is that there used to be just one place to go to get your Medicaid trips, and now there's potentially 4 different places. So if a person doesn't know where to go to get the Medicaid trip or the Medicaid services, just have them give me a call or call PSTA or even my number, which is here directly, and we'll be happy to get them into the right direction. Are there any questions, though, that I can answer for you about this, if you've dealt with this issue at all, or have any concerns?
Any questions for Mr. Silvers? Okay, I think we're good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll move to our reports and correspondence. PSTA performance report and updates. Mr. Moore?
The performance report is in your packet. And you can see that overall our bus ridership went up slightly in the month of May. On our regular services, there was a reduction in our contracted services, which include the Clearwater Jolly Trolley and the Looper in downtown St. Petersburg. Looper ridership has been down since the pier closed, because that was a major destination for the Looper. Clearwater Jolly Trolley was closed on the beach for a period of time because the aquarium was closed for making the movie. And then it's reopened again, and ridership is still growing back from the aquarium. But without those 2 declines, overall ridership went up. And I think that's a very important component. It's pretty much the most important component of PSTA is to have try to get more people to ride public transit, which is what the UPass program was about. I noticed that some of the folks that are not supportive of Greenlight Pinellas have been criticizing PSTA for trying to increase ridership, and I don't necessarily see the logic in that. I think that's my job, is to try to get more people to ride. So I wanted to say that. I wanted to highlight PSTA is participating in a number of internship programs, and I want to highlight those. We have 4 interns now working for us from sponsored by the Bowley Centers. It's a partnership with the city of St. Petersburg, which the city pays half of their wage. We've got 4 interns from the Pinellas Opportunity Council, another organization. Are there any interns in the audience? We got one back there. Oh, and she is not neither of the 2 I just mentioned. I know she came. She is from a postmasters, Kristen, in planning department. So it's a good intern program. We seem to be running a lot of people I don't recognize in the hallway, but they're working hard.
Great to have you on board.
Learning a lot.
Thanks for joining us.
Last but not least, I just want to highlight, it was a great honor that PSTA received on Friday by being nominated by the St. Pete Chamber for their Good Burger Award for PSTA for being a major, in their major employer category. We are a member of the St. Pete Chamber, as I believe we are a member of every single chamber in Pinellas County, and there's many. And they have these awards once a year, and PSTA was nominated. So you can go on to the stpete.com, I think it is, website of the chamber and vote for PSTA for maybe the next month. Might also mention that we were the only entity in St. Petersburg to be nominated for 2 awards. The agency got nominated, and a certain individual was nominated for Most Valuable Burger. So that was a good thing, too.
This is B-U-R-G-H-E-R?
B-E-R.
What?
Burger.
MVB. That's what they...
B-U-R-G-H-E-R, like the...
Not like Berg, like St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg.
Oh.
StPete.com is the chamber's website. It's right on there. You just click on it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Any questions on the update? Let's move to 6B, the capital projects update.
That is at your places. This is something that the Finance Committee reviews quarterly. It lists the close to 30-some capital projects that are in our CIP that you approve and their status. So it's a good summary of all the different projects, including, as Ms. Johnson is very interested in, the soon-to-be-open Pinellas Park Transit Center. They're off US 19, which I saw the other day. It's looking pretty good. We're targeting August 1st for our opening.
Okay. Any questions on that item? Commissioner Newton?
Well, not the bus, but one of the projects. The Wi-Fi, I know we did a pilot in March. Is that system-wide yet, or are we still working on it?
Oh, well, we did the pilot. So we have 20 buses right now out there with the Wi-Fi, and we are in the process of installing the modems on the other 180 right now.
Okay, so
it should soon be system-wide.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Madam Secretary?
Our boardroom and auditorium audio equipment,
Yeah.
it's like 0 and 0, and one says it's on hold, so I'm just looking.
Debbie, you want to give a quick update on that one?
I know we've been trying to improve.
Good morning, Board.
Good
I'm
morning.
Deborah Woodward. I'm the IT Director. Julie? This room, we're actually looking at what are the ways we can use some of the existing conduit that we have in here, and also upgrading the system. This system in this boardroom has not been upgraded since we moved in here. So we really haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to that. But as far as the auditorium, we did install new cameras up there, and you've probably noticed at some of the committee meetings. We are in the process of testing those cameras. We've had a few problems with them. Once that's done, we'll be able to offer not only upstairs, but in this room, live video streaming on our website.
Awesome.
Okay.
So we're close, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, well, it's definitely important because it's all about communication
It
with
is.
the public.
We want to get that
and we wanna
information
have
out to the
that-
public.
We want to be top-notch with that, so
Yes,
thank
we
you.
do. You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
I know that we were talking about in the Finance Committee, the Largo Commons issue has stalled a little bit due to the fact of Walmart. We pulled that together. Is there any set date where elected commissioners can go and speak to these individuals? Or can I speak to them?
Speak to
Walmart or the contractor or whatever will help, maybe?
I have had a conversation with City of Largo staff to see if the city can assist us in moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us some background on the issue?
Yes. When the property, the former mall property, was going to be redeveloped, part of the project called for, required, and they received some, not incentives, but recognition in terms of permits that were granted and way in which they're allowed to construct their project by the City of Largo in return for agreeing to build a transfer facility on their property.
This is the new Walmart at the corner of US 19 and Roosevelt at East Bay.
Right
there.
And there's an apartment complex on the other portion of the property that is being developed now, but is not yet complete. The part of the project under the agreement that was approved by the board, PSTA will will be conveyed the property where the transfer facility is actually located, which is between the Walmart and the apartment complex. There's a roadway that leaves from Roosevelt back to the facility that was designed so as to handle the buses. Under the agreement, PSTA is obligated for the major maintenance of that roadway at 85% share is PSTA's, and the other 15% is divided between the owner of the Walmart and the owner of the apartment complex. Problem is, when they constructed the roadway, we had hired engineers to inspect the roadway before we would accept it, and there was numerous defects that were identified in the construction of the roadway, which we've been trying to get resolved under the agreement. They were supposed to, upon receiving our notification, resolve those defects, and we've had a difficult time getting a response to attempt to even just meet to try to resolve the issues. with regard to the existing defects in the concrete roadway before PSTA is going to accept responsibility to maintain it at the tune of 85%. So we have stalled since February. And I got the runaround. At one point, we had an agreement set where we thought we were going to be able to sit down and resolve the issues, and they canceled the agreement the day before.
Commissioners, what I told the Finance Committee and what Commissioner Smith was talking about was essentially the Walmart is now open. The road is being used by cars, but we are not using it for buses because of our understanding of the buses will damage the roadway quickly, and we are on the hook to pay for the repair of it once it has problems. And so, because of the stall, I suggested that we get with the City of Largo to work to try to
put teeth in something.
Yeah, the idea is perhaps that since it was Walmart's contractor that did it, it's their responsibility that they will relieve PSTA of the responsibility that we thought was coming in 20 years, that we now think might happen in 1 or 2 years, to pay for the replacement of the road, because they stand by their contractor, at least they should, and so that's the discussion we were supposed to have.
I mean, it's probably a little bit more, I mean, there's more complexity to it because, you know, there was the bank was involved, there was another party involved that actually owned the property. And then it appears amongst the contractor, the engineer, and the construction manager, and Walmart, they're all pointing fingers at each other as to whose fault it is. But it's a relatively large financial issue because to replace a road has been estimated to cost $900,000 to $1 million. So if you say PSTA is taking on 85% of that cost, we don't want to do that lightly. And we actually still haven't received even the easement or the property conveyed to PSTA, so we don't have a right to go there until we receive those two items either. So
we're having difficulty with the developer. Am I somewhat correct?
Well, at this point, their developer has told us we have to go to Walmart. And Walmart first had one attorney, and now they've referred us to an attorney in Arkansas, and he's non-responsive. I have talked to the assistant city manager and the community development director at Largo to try to see if they can determine a way from their standpoint they could help put some pressure on them to resolve the issues so that we can start using the facility.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Any other questions or comments on the capital projects? Okay, if not, future meeting subjects, any comments on those? Anything, Mr. Miller?
No. Again, look forward next month to seeing the budget, including Green Light.
Okay, any other business? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to board member comments. I haven't heard from Commissioner Diamond all day.
Well, it was a great meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Those aren't related.
I wanted to make two comments. First, I had the opportunity last night to attend the Green Bench Forum in St. Petersburg, and it was interesting to me to hear the four mayors who were there, the mayors of Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Indian Rocks Beach, all talk about the need for a more robust regional transportation in order for us to compete from an economic development perspective. Those are the folks that are really on the front lines of the economic development efforts for our communities. So I thought it was an important discussion, and I want to commend Brad and the attorneys and the other people here at PSTA and on the county who worked on this interlocal agreement. I think as we go to the voters and ask for this type of investment in our future, the voters want to know that it's going to be implemented with a certain amount of transparency and accountability. And I think this type of agreement is an important step for voters to have that comfort level. So I just want to pass on those comments. And then I had one comment I just wanted to make on a consent agenda item that caught my eye. It relates to PSTA's settlement with a vendor Angelo's Aggregate Materials. This was the issue of the contamination down at the bus garage in St. Pete.
Item 3G.
Item 3G. And I think what happened is the board approved the settlement and approved an amount for the settlement based on the understanding that PSTA would be fully released. And I don't think when that issue was brought to the board, the contractor, from what I can tell, had actually signed what they were willing to do, because then they, after the board discussion, came back and said, we only will agree to a partial release of liability. And I guess from a process perspective, I think it's great that we talk in the sunshine, and I believe in the sunshine. But I think from a process perspective, it might be good in considering these settlements with our vendors, if they come up in the future. I don't know if it's possible for the vendor to first sign an agreement and say, this is what I'd be willing to do, and then bring it to the board, because they're trying to settle with a public entity, and I think we need to know that this is really what they're willing to do, and we should have the benefit of knowing that they're committed to the agreement before we have a discussion about whether or not we're willing to also agree. So I just wanted to share that comment. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
It's great feedback. It was lesson learned on this arrangement. We thought we had that, but then you're exactly right, and that does come up, and we want to ensure that we have an arrangement before I bring it through the committees and to the PSTA board.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Commissioner Diamond. Commissioner Long?
Yes, and without belaboring a story that's very personal to me, I couldn't help but be touched by some of the comments made with regard to lack of transportation and how it affects our elderly. I cared for both of my parents in my home for 22 years. And one of the toughest days of my whole life was when we had to take my mother's driver's license. It changed her life forever, and it really impacted mine and the life of my family. So this is just really a huge issue for our community, and I'm so passionate about it. I'm very pleased to say that I have been having very in-depth and thoughtful conversations with members of the City Council in Seminole, and they are moving forward to begin to have a thoughtful discussion on their council as it relates to green lights. Excellent. So I'm looking forward. Brad and I are going to get together and meet with them and with Dr. Oliver at the college again to work on routes that are really going to be meaningful for the people in Seminole.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership, Commissioner Long. Commissioner Smith.
The only thing I have is, sorry, my city was absent from the Green Bench. We had an annexation special meeting, so our mayor could not be there. It was
annexation,
very
what's that?
If you sat through it, you would have been interesting. But so we missed out on that, and I know my mayor would have wished to been there. But it sounds like it was a great opportunity to hear and see where we're moving forward in our county, and that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Rice.
No comments. I would like to commend my colleague, St. Pete Council Member Wingay Newton, for being here today with me, since it's technically our vacation for St. Pete City Council, and both glad to be here for this meeting.
Thank you for your commitment. Commissioner Newton?
She's almost here by herself. But no, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I just want to commend my colleagues for their advocacy and their leadership on this really, really important issue of green light Pinellas and mass transit. I mean, I take it seriously. The buses is what survived me, my mom, my family, all through my education, getting back and forth to ITT, driving the Heartline from downtown Tampa all the way out to USF. So, I mean, I know what it's about. And this aging in place, I mean, we have a lot of more seasoned constituencies here that love our beautiful city, and they should not be found because they can't get around, or we see more and more. What I think is probably the worst is the silver alerts. When I see those, my wife and I just I can't fathom the idea, you know, because what that is, it's flash a silver alert in someone's license plate, and then they go back when you get home and watch Bay News 9 and 7. You see the person saying Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and all these ailments, and first thing you want to know, why in the hell are they driving, you know? But this is the kind of madness that we do. But I know not having transportation options, the people got to get around. They're doing what they got to do, you know? It's unfortunate that, you know, that this robust transit system wasn't implemented a long time ago, and I thank my colleagues for plowing forward and showing leadership on this issue. I want to thank the employees of PSTA that receive accommodation. And for the first time, I've been reading this, I don't know, a couple of years maybe, and for the first time, it's all bus drivers. There's no customer service reps. It's all bus drivers, but it's 36 of them. And first, before I start, I want to thank PSTA and Brad for participating in the Summer Youth Intern Program. You know, I mentioned that a couple years back, and that we had a partnership going where the city has set aside $250,000 for employers and businesses to partner with us and give a young person an opportunity to be able to work for 10 weeks out the summer. We cover half of the wages, they cover half of the wages, but it's a benefit to the employer because the biggest expense is always payroll. So I thank them for partnering with us and giving these young people an opportunity, the 4 people that they do have out here. First one is, and bear with me while I hold up your name and take it out of love. I'm going to say Tawana Battisti, and she was nice, helpful driver. Willie Beckett, he was courteous and helpful. Joseph Colacco, professional driver. Donna Cameron, patient and professional driver. Candice Cargier, a helpful and professional driver. Elizabeth Cater, she was kind and helpful. Curtis Chaddock, a safe and professional driver. Queen Daniels, nice and helpful. Patricia Davison, on time, nice and good driver. Danny Dina Colatoni, close enough, I guess. Nice and kind driver. Cat Fagras, he's 2 accommodations, courteous and professional driver. Yolanda Gibson, 2 accommodations, courteous and helpful driver. Dina Grayson, helpful and friendly driver. Asia Holmes, very pleasant driver. Charles Hubbard, kind, helpful, nice driver. Marcus Hughes, great driver, doing a fantastic job. Even Jones, patient, safe and professional. Marcus Kincaid is a professional driver, doing a great job. Stacy Knowles, nice, kind, helpful, and professional. Gary Kruger is nice and helpful. Robert Levia, polite and courteous. George Latenti, courteous, gentlemanly driver. Sharon Lovin, excellent customer service. Bridget Mitchell, friendly driver. James Murray, friendly and kind driver. Patrick Murray, courteous and professional. Doug Oakley, friendly driver, always smiling. Tyrone Ramsey, helpful driver, doing a great job. Ira Roberts, nice, helpful, and good driver. Mark Scatz, 2 accommodations, safe and professional driver. Donald Scott, friendly driver. Leon Smiley, courteous and professional driver. Mark Smith, awesome and pleasant driver. Roger Strootman, nice, kind, and helpful driver. Joseph Wash, kind, professional driver. And Terry White, courteous, friendly, helpful driver. I want to thank you for all you do. You guys are the face of PSTA. You service the end user day in and day out, and I know it's not an easy job, but I thank you for showing your professionalism and representing PSTA. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton, and thank you for always recognizing our employees. Secretary Bogowski.
I just want to wish everyone a wonderful 4th of July.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you. I have a bus ride story. As some of you know, I live up in the countryside area. It's an area that up until recently didn't really have very good bus service unless you walked about a mile out to US 19. But a couple of weeks ago, I decided to drop my car off for service at Countryside Ford and decided that, well, let me see what public transit can help me on. And so by the time I got up to Countryside Mall, I had about a 10-minute wait for the North County Connector. It came and dropped me off 4 blocks from my house. Now, the reason it dropped me off 4 blocks from my house is I didn't have the foresight to call 2 hours ahead of time, or it would have dropped me off right in the corner by my house. So that was my bad, and I've learned from that. But the bus, there were other people on the bus, and the driver was very, very accommodating, and it was very good service. What was a little less than satisfactory was getting from the Countryside Ford up to the Countryside Mall, in that I had to stop at, I walked north to the first bus stop. Well, that was temporarily disabled because of the construction. So I walked up further to the Cypress Point shopping center, where there used to be a very nice bus shelter, and has apparently been removed by DOT because of the construction, and does not look like there are accommodations to restore that at that particular spot. And it reminded me back in 2007 that this board sent 2 resolutions to DOT asking them please consider the transit riders during the reconstruction activities. And so I think I need to dust off those resolutions and talk to the MPO about that. But there is progress and there is hope there, in that FDOT is now considering some options for the Harn and 19 crossing. That is of particular concern to some disabled individuals that use that crossing, and so I'm very pleased with that aspect of FDOT. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Okay, let's go to Commissioner John Maroney. He is gone. I need to look up before I call names. Vice Mayor Mertz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to just thank everyone involved in that interlocal agreement that we passed today. I think that is a critical and very positive step forward in this process that we're pursuing. I'd also like to thank Brad for his mention of the large number of interns that we have here at PSTA. I think that we talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. I think being supportive of that and being involved in that is very important, not only to foster interest in public service and other things, but I think it's also very important to the community as well. So I thank you for that. And then the last one is kind of an observation and a question. On my way in today on Ulmerton with the traffic, I had the pleasure of sitting behind a PSTA bus for 4 stops. And each time I looked up and I was reading about the Jolly Trolley. And it was a pleasure, but I didn't see Safety Harbor listed as one of the items. I caught it on the 3rd time, not the 1st or 2nd time. And I understand that I don't want to, wondering what the long-term plans to include that would be. I understand we don't want to incur costs in removing the plastic or whatever's on there to put a new one on with it. But obviously getting the word out is important in ridership and things like that. So just a question as to the either when that might occur or just to mention it so you could get back at another time. Thank you.
It is being duly noted by the CEO as you speak.
Thank you very much.
Maybe it's contingent on the city of Safety Harbor taking action on the Glen Pinellas. We'll see. I'm not sure.
There you go. Well, I'm not sure we want to go there.
And we were doing so well. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor Barkley.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to again congratulate everybody that was involved with the interlocal agreement. Hopefully, this will do a lot to convince the naysayers that we are not going to have a double tax and that this will eventually go away in their commentary that they use against the Green Light Pinellas program. Secondly, I think the UPass is a terrific idea to not only help college students and other folks like that. But it's a terrific idea as an incentive to businesses to help recruit and retain high-quality employees. I think that'll be very beneficial, not only to PSTA in filling seats, but also in regard to growing the employment opportunities in our region. And thirdly, I'd like to congratulate Debbie Elias for coming out with a budget early on. Makes a lot of sense, very clear and understandable. It really is very helpful, I think, to us in showing that we are on track to do great things for Pinellas County.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Commissioner Johnson.
I just want to, transportation disadvantage was brought up today and we voted on it, but I think most people don't even know what it is. I see several people that are at our transportation disadvantage meetings, and it has a lot to do with the elderly that you've talked about today. And PSTA plays a huge part in all transportation, from nursing homes, from people's own homes, from assisted living facilities, from everything that has to do with the elderly and the disadvantaged, making sure that disadvantaged people also get to work, to the doctor, and all of those things. And that committee, or is that what we call it, Brad? This
The local
committee?
coordinating board of the MPO.
Coordinating board
Yeah.
works very hard all year long and works in coordination with all the entities out there that provide services, Neighborly Senior and all of those. And I think that most people don't know how hard PSTA works with this. And I would like to congratulate all of those people that work with us to do that. So, thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Dayton.
Good meeting. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you. I have a bus rider story, too.
All right.
A little more positive than Commissioner Johnson's. Recently, it was a month or so ago, it was, I think, National Transportation, Used Public Transportation Day, or something to that effect.
Oh, yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, my assistant knew of that and decided to ride public transportation that day and fell in love. And now she goes back and forth to the office in Clearwater from Dunedin on a bus. It takes her 20 minutes. She was thrilled when she realized it was only 20 minutes, about the same time it takes in a car. And she gets on the bus in the morning and reads a book, come to work, arrives at the office, well, the Park Center station, and walks 2 blocks, and she's at the office relaxed and ready to go to work.
The commute.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, she's continuing to use it and plans to keep it up, so that's pretty cool.
That's what we want, the choice riders.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And the county, maybe we could get on that bandwagon of
The
getting
U-Pass thing.
the U-Pass.
Yeah.
Told her she could do some work on the bus.
Yeah.
They will have Wi-Fi. They will have
Yeah, she'll
Wi-Fi.
have Wi-Fi, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Latvala. I just want to thank our staff and partners and this board for your incredible work. We're moving forward in a positive direction, and I couldn't be prouder of this organization. Whether it's the draft budget, the Universal Pass program, the interlocal, even the tire lease that we skipped over that saved us $300 grand. I mean, there's incredible work happening here, and I just commend this organization for your work. Stay calm, stay focused, and I'm excited about where we're going. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, we're adjourned.